Hey, this is Patrick Curtis, CEO and founder of Wall Street Oasis. We have another great chat today with Malhar. Malhar is originally from India, was going to school at the University of Toronto studying computer science. Listen specifically to what he did with his networking that I think a lot of people miss. Um, and I think it's probably the key reason why he had so much success, even though he was very late to the game. He didn't know he even wanted to do anything in finance until his junior year when he joined us in WSO Academy and had an amazing outcome. So enjoy this one. Talk soon. All right, Malhar, thanks so much for taking the time to join us today and chat about your story.
No worries.
So I'd love for you to give the listeners just a quick summary bio of kind of where you're from and where you were going to school,
Yeah.
all that good stuff.
Yeah. So my name is Malhar. I'm originally from India, but I attend the University of Toronto, where I'm studying computer science, statistics, and math. So a very unconventional background to come into finance. I'm currently in my senior-ish year because I finished my seventh semester, and before my last semester, I'll be working as a quant for about a year, which is part of the Canadian co-op system.
Mhm.
Uh, so yeah, that's a little bit about me.
So talk to me a little bit about, I know you joined us in June, so
Yes.
in the kind of the Q2 cohort. Talk to me a little bit about just kind of what you were doing before the academy, kind of what your goals were. Did you know you always wanted to kind of go quant finance, or when did that kind of discovery first happen? Was it
Yeah.
in high school? Was it when you first got to University of Toronto? I'd love to hear a little bit about that.
It wasn't in high school. In fact, it wasn't even in the first 2 years of university, because in my freshman year and my sophomore year, I was a complete STEM major
Hmm.
on track to work for the Microsofts and the Nvidias of the world.
Yeah.
But after my sophomore year, I did an internship in software consulting, and that was a little underwhelming for me because I didn't really enjoy it, and I had to take a long, hard look at where I wanted to end up after college. So I'd say my third year, my junior year, is when I actually decided quant finance is what I enjoy, and it is what I'd like to do for a living. And so towards the tail end of what was the first semester of my third year, that is when I decided there's no hedging now. Let's just dive into this and go all in. And so over the course of the second semester of my third year, I was still interviewing for both tech and quant finance positions.
Hmm.
And I did my junior year internship in AI engineering at the Royal Bank of Canada.
Hmm.
And it was a very conscious decision to choose RBC over the other offers I had, which was IBM and Microsoft, because I knew it would allow me to interface with the people I wanted to end up. And so my summer internship with RBC is when, in fact, I joined WSO. And over the course of the next semester, it was a complete green light for recruiting, and that's when I ended up landing my current role.
Nice. And so we want to let people know kind of where you ended up or in the quant role you ended up
Oh
landing.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'll be working at McKenzie Investments, which is a Canadian long only asset manager,
Hmm.
and I'll be working on multi asset strategies.
That's great. And so do you feel like, and in terms of like what you were doing before, obviously coming from the computer science background, you didn't really know how to necessarily brand yourself for finance or for these quant
Oh,
roles.
definitely, yeah,
Talk to
yeah.
me a little bit about like,
Because
because you came into the
it's
academy, did
not,
you
yeah,
change everything like right out of the gate, or would you talk to me a little bit about like the,
yeah.
yeah.
So it's not even like coming from STEM background is obviously a little bit of a culture shock,
Hmm.
but at least like I've heard of people who have family members or friends working in finance. I had nothing of that sort. And so it was a complete paradigm shift for me. And that is where WSO was really helpful because it provided a structured approach to things like networking and how to present yourself and how to brand yourself, which are things I didn't necessarily focus on prior to joining.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the part where it helped the most.
And talk to me a little bit about kind of, I do see on your dashboard, your student dashboards, you see a lot of interviews and mock interviews you practice. Talk to me a
Yeah,
little bit about that because I do see you improve for the most part on these in terms of your scores.
yeah,
Did you do a lot of mocks? Did you work with, just a few mentors? Did you work with a handful of mentors? I'd be curious how you leveraged us in that way.
got it. So the period when I was doing mocks most intensively was also, I had like 10 different interviews in the pipeline.
Hmm.
And so the interviews for me personally were not a question of which skills I had to work on, but it was getting comfortable enough with the mentors. Because the biggest takeaway, for me at least, from that was the interviewer is not out to get you. It is genuinely meant to be a conversation where, their thought process is, I like this person. He's smart. He's intelligent. I want him on my team. That's genuinely what the approach should be like. And a lot of people get that confounded and they approach interviews with a very kind of tense manner.
Yeah.
So getting that drilled in and being comfortable with the conversation itself and technicals was my biggest takeaway from the entire mock process.
Yeah, and I see like from your first mock to your last mock, you made a big jump in terms of your improvement across the board with several different mentors. So it's good. It's really cool to see that improvement and kind of increase your odds to actually landing that role. So yeah, I guess in terms of other people who are kind of in a similar background to you, maybe they are quants or computer science majors, any kind of advice you'd give them in terms of their prep or the networking you did? I'd love to hear about that. Did you have to reach out to, it sounds like you had a lot of interviews. So were you doing a lot of networking or was your CV so strong that you just ended up getting that many interviews?
The whole interviewing and recruiting process for quants, one thing I genuinely recommend people is a lot of quant firms tend to say that all you need to be is mathematically fluent enough and we'll teach you the finance. Now, that's good to some extent because it levels the playing field, but I'd also say that's kind of a very dangerous approach to take because this is one of the research professors that I'm working with says this. People who are grounded in the math part and the econ and finance part will always have an edge over people who know only the math part. And this is kind of a joke, but uh, people like to say that the 2008 crisis happened only because there were quants who did not know the finance side of it. And so, yeah, that's, anyways, it's always good to have a grounded idea
Yeah.
of what exactly it is you're dealing with. And that means a major recontextualization for STEM majors about modeling, about valuation, about accounting, that sort of thing. Secondly, as far as recruiting and networking itself is concerned, uh, I don't recall specifically approaching networking with the intention of getting referrals because referrals are not a very common pipeline, at least in the quant side of
Yeah.
finance.
Yeah.
That said, I do remember proactively taking the time during my summer internship at RBC and meeting with as many people as I could, head traders, portfolio managers, VPs, that sort of thing, and
Mhm.
just getting an idea of the field I was looking to be in.
Yeah.
That's probably what helped the most. Uh, Recruiting wise, I don't know if this is only my experience or if other people face this, but I genuinely found there was kind of a binary step function in the sense that uh, there was a point of time where I was not getting interviews, not landing any leads, nothing whatsoever. But I had to grind through that and slog through that. And then the step occurred where I just had a ton of opportunities at my hands, and recruiters started to reach out to me. So yeah, that's another tip I'd give people. Just keep at it, keep putting the reps in, and you will eventually hit that inflection
Do you think
point.
the inflection was related to getting that RBC internship on the resume? Probably partly something due to that. Was it more like you branding yourself better? Was it the networking? Like, did you reach out to, I know you networked aggressively while you were at RBC. Was there any additional networking you did, or was it
Yeah.
more like you spoke with 20 different quants and that was it? And then let's talk about just the actual interview, like, landing at McKenzie. Like, Was it very difficult? Were there a lot of
Yeah,
like these plyometric assessments prior to, or basically IQ tests prior to
yeah,
like even getting to the
yeah,
final?
yeah.
Talk to me a little
Yeah.
bit about
Got it. So as far as recruiting was concerned, RBC obviously because I was working in there, there was like I had much easier access to quants and PMs than other people would. But even outside of that, I made sure that I talked to people at universities and at hedge funds in the United States just to keep myself up to date and to form relations, not with the intention of getting referrals.
that.
Uh, as far as the interview at McKenzie itself was concerned, uh, the first rounds were the basic, like you said, the biometrics and all of that. But after that, I found the interviews to be heavily focused on technicals, at least for the team I was interviewing in, which was multi-asset strategies.
Yeah.
Uh, I found that I enjoyed the whole global macro finance scene more than any other side of finance. And so I made sure to intensively study up on that. And that is also something that WSO helped me with because I was not only interviewing with mentors in, say, New York or California, but mentors in London or Hong Kong, because those were also some of the positions I was interviewing for. So having that aspect of, this is valued in this part of the world and, all these different kinds of approaches allows you to create a more holistic persona.
Yeah, do you feel like you were able to leverage that? I mean, it's pretty interesting, especially if you're talking macro, multi-strat
Yeah,
macro. If you have a good perspective macro, what's going on in Hong Kong versus Singapore versus London versus New York, and what the different funds are doing and different strategies, it's probably an interesting perspective to bring into the interview.
definitely,
And it
definitely.
makes you
Yeah,
look more well, like researched and more passionate about
yeah,
it, right?
yeah,
Which can help
definitely.
you land the offer in and of itself. So that's cool to hear that you spoke to people from different regions and leveraged that. I think that's a really smart approach. I guess, yeah, in terms of like, um, it's really interesting because I agree with you. The quant on the quant side, um, we do get pushback occasionally from people saying, well, it's not about the networking there. You can't just network your way into
Yeah,
a quant job. And it's true. You do have to pass, you do have to have a certain level of technical intellect in terms of just like quant, being able to pass those
yeah,
metrics before you're given a shot at the final round interview. But I always argue with those students, I say, this is true to get into the final round.
yeah,
But then once you get to that final round, how
exactly.
well researched and how well networked you are does make a huge difference in terms of
Yeah,
number one,
definitely.
are you have you had the reps of talking with so many different quants that you actually understand all the nuances and the strategies, and that shines through. It shines through in the final
Yeah,
round, and that's kind of the whole point. It shows that you're passionate. It shows that you're going to be fun to work with because you're a good conversationalist. You're not just only a quant, only focused on the math.
yeah,
You can actually like connect and communicate with people, and I think that comes across just chatting to you now. Like you're not the typical quant that's just going to be like, "Hey, no, don't talk to me. I want to."
yeah,
In fact,
yeah.
there's a student here. We have a brilliant student I'm going to put you in touch with after this call
Got it, got
who has been in final rounds at some of the top quant shops for us. He's one of our students, but he hasn't broken through yet. And I think he's disheartened, but I've
it.
continually
No,
tried to
no.
tell him like you need to, it's
Yeah,
not just about like your raw intellect. It's
yeah,
about how you come across, especially in those final rounds, because there's going to be other people alongside you that are also brilliant. And so who they hire is really
definitely.
more about how authentic they feel you are, how strong a connection they have with you. So I love the fact that you were networking without the intention of a referral. I love that. I love the fact that you were like chatting with anybody you could. And
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's not surprising that you made it because you were doing that. Like you understood the value of networking outside of the referral.
Yeah,
And a
yeah,
lot of people don't see that. A lot of people still see the networking, especially in the banking world. A lot of people see this networking as like, okay, it's January, it's recruiting season. I'm a sophomore now. I'm gonna turn on my
yeah,
networking and then turn it off once I get like once I do a call. They're like, okay, so can I refer you?
yeah.
Can you refer me? Um,
That doesn't work.
yeah, it doesn't work nearly
Yeah,
as well as if you build that relationship over a long period of time. If there's no ulterior motive, if you're just doing it out of genuine curiosity and you have that genuine curiosity, you're asking good questions, and it's not just a list of questions you come prepared to the call with, but you're actually trying to make a true connection. So I'm really happy to hear you did that. I think it's not surprising that you broke through and landed an awesome role. So Congratulations. Any kind of final words of
Thanks a
wisdom
lot.
you want to share with the listeners or with anyone watching this?
Uh, the biggest piece of advice is still the one I gave, which is a lot of people tend to get disheartened because just because of how competitive the landscape is and how sort of tiresome the process is, which is keep putting the reps in. And this is actually where WSO comes in because, especially for a student like me who had no inkling of what part of finance he wanted to work in, WSO provided a structured approach. And more than that, being able to talk to mentors about your thought processes and your approach, that gives you the extra edge and it makes the whole journey easy. It makes it easier to help you hit those inflection points, which I was talking about.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I always talk to people in terms of where they're scoring on their mock interviews. And I let them know, I'm like, we have the data. We have thousands of mock interviews in our
Yeah.
database of scores, and we know who's getting the offers where. And I can tell you, it's like a massive shift in number of offers given from the people who are scoring in the mid 70s, high 70s, which if you're scoring in like mid 70s, high 70s when you first join, is really good. It's a great starting place.
Yeah.
But for the kids who are high 80s, 90s,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
just like the
Definitely.
number of offers are just flying in compared to
Yeah. Yeah.
the kids who are like on that edge. So like even the kids who are like, well, I'm pretty good. I'm above average. I'm like, yeah, you're above average, but you're on that bubble. Why would you be on that
Exactly.
bubble if you could just
Yeah.
put in a little bit more work and just get yourself
Yeah.
into that
Yeah.
safety zone? So, well, listen, Maha, I really appreciate you taking the time to share
No
your
worries. No
story
worries
and
at all.
congratulations. And let's stay in touch, okay? Always we'll be.
Yeah. Definitely.
I'll see you in the slide.
Definitely.
All right, man. Talk
Right.
soon.
See you, Patrick.
Thanks. Bye.